freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap episode for round one of the Michael Block Challenge. Joining me to break it all down, Kyle Porter is here. KP, good day to you, sir.
And a good day to you, Rick. I'm glad we renamed one of the premier events on the PGA Tour. It is Michael Block's world. I've got some takes. I'm ready to just fire them off.
All right. Well, yeah, I figured I could just change one guy's name for another guy's name and probably get away with it. Do you want to just start with the Michael Block stuff? Like, should we just jump right into this?
Yes, we should.
All right. Michael Block, the viral sensation from the PGA Championship, Club Pro out of Mission Viejo, gets a sponsor's invite into the Charles Schwab Challenge, and it was not his day, Kyle. 11 over 81. Which includes 3 double bogeys on 15, 16, and 18. I think that for most of us, looking at the amount of obligations and media and everything that went into his last, 90 hours, this was pretty much the most likely outcome.
Yeah, it was. There are so many different interesting facets to this story, right? And I think everybody wants, whenever something like this happens, everybody wants a piece of it, like podcasts and shows and he was on Good Morning America and all these different things.
He did Pat McAfee. He did literally everything, everywhere.
All of it. Yeah. And this isn't really anybody's fault, right? Because shows like this one or others are incentivized to draw attention, and somebody like Michael Block is incentivized to capitulate to that attention, right? There's the incentives of the modern media landscape are such that this is the natural sort of overflow of a good story. The unintended consequence is that it is, one, exhausting for everyone because we have to keep up this charade that we still all and he has to keep up the charade that this is it's just tiring to keep it up for that long, right? And then 2, one of the unintended consequences is you get into a situation like he did on Wednesday where he says, hey, if I hit it like Rory, I'd be the best player in the world, which it's very easy to just kind of torch him for that. Guess what, Rick? You and I would say something equally ridiculous if we were doing 30 interviews in 3 days. Right? I mean, first of all, if you were that good that if you hit it like Rory, you'd be the number 1 player in the world, you'd be Zach Johnson.
Right. If you were world class from fairway through green,
you'd be Webb Simpson.
Yeah, you'd be a lot of guys. Yeah.
You'd be Luke Don. We can go down the list. But Michael Block outdrove Zach Johnson. I sent this tweet out on Thursday. Nobody understood it, but Michael Block
took me a second to put the name together.
He outdrove Zach Johnson last week. Guess what Zach Johnson has done? Won 12 times on the PGA Tour, won at St. Andrews, won Augusta National. Right? So the statement about Rory is just preposterous. But I think the bigger thing is it's not even really his fault. I don't. You're going to say something that is he's talked more than we have over the last week.
Oh, by a mile.
And you're going to say something ridiculous. It just is I'm grateful for the modern media landscape because it's one of the reasons that you and I have these jobs, right? We wouldn't have these jobs necessarily if this was 40 years ago or 50 years ago. I mean, maybe we would, but it would have taken a lot longer. And there's a huge butterfly effect there. But I think the downside of it is what we're seeing with Michael Block this week.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because you get a guy who gets thrust into a moment, whether he wants it or not. And like you said, is kind of obligated to do like everyone knows this is a 15-minute situation. So he's got to say yes to everything. I would.
Yep.
And then you have to back it up with your game at some point, right? And unfortunately,
but what's the end to that?
There is no end to it. The end is he is actually the only good ending for him is he is actually an elite player who becomes a PGA Tour professional, which is so unlikely based on the mounting evidence that we have seen, not only from him, but from like thousands of others in similar situations. Unfortunately, that's the only end point. The more likely ending is he plays this event, he plays the RBC Canadian, we replay the hole-in-one at next year's PGA Championship, and that is like, that's it. It fades off into the sunset, and I hope that he puts the money in the bank. Like that's the natural thing here.
What money though? Like who's like paying him?
Well, let's see. He's got the $250K from the PGA Championship. He's
okay. Earned it.
Yeah. Loaded up on all these sponsors, which I'm sure there are a couple sponsors out there on him right now that I would assume he got six figures for. So I think that he is probably in the last week. I don't think it would be outrageous to say he has made $500,000.
Okay. And maybe like the extent of it over the course of time is $1 million.
Right. And that now he might he might write a book. The PGA of America might invite him to speak at yearly seminars, right? Like, yes, it might be a lifetime $1 million thing.
That's great. I think that the thing that sucks is like, he had the week of a lifetime, right? He kept saying that it was true. Everybody saw it. We were there. He experienced it. Rory, the whole thing. It was like a dream. But now he's going to experience this sort of, and probably already is experiencing this sort of backlash that it just leaves a sour taste for everybody. And again, I don't know what the answer is. He's incentivized to do this. I think it's a little bit like, I don't know if gross is the right word, but everybody is just so, and this is one of you do a great job actually of not doing this. Everybody's so obsessed with like the being in the moment and trying to capitalize and like ride these waves and all this different nonsense. And it's like, man, how about you just build a brand over a long period of time? If I'm one of these brands that's like trying to glom on to Michael Block, how about like, instead of trying to just cash in on the flavor of the month or use him to like better your brand, try to build something for the long term and not just for like the next week. I think that's the part that irritates me the most. And I think you've actually done a great job of that with rickrungood.com of like, hey, I don't care about this week or the next 2 weeks or the next month. I care about the next 10 years. Right. And I think what we're seeing is like a bunch of entities and organizations that care about the next 2 days and aren't even thinking about the next 5 weeks or, 7 months. Yeah. Sorry, that's a rant.
No, that's okay. And you're right. And these entities who are, globbing on are now, I mean, in 3 weeks, they'll be looking for the next, whatever that next thing.
Yeah.
Right. Which is.
Yeah. And sorry, one of my kids just got hit in the face on the trampoline.
Is it good? Do we need
Oh,
do we need dad out there?
No, they did need dad on Tuesday though, which is why I missed the one and done. I apologize for that. It was a worthy miss. I'm fine with it.
Would you have who would you have put in?
I don't even know who I have left. Have I picked Max? Maybe Max.
Michael Block. I don't know if you've picked Max.
I'm taking. I am doing this. I'm taking Brooks for the US Open. I'm back. I'm sure you guys talked like PGA sort of recap on Tuesday, but just his ability, his will at major championships, and it went away, right? It went away for a year. He was bad last year, and the Netflix episode, like, again, keep dunking on me for all that stuff, but like it was a real thing, and for him to bounce back from that is truly extraordinary. Like he is an extraordinary major championship player, and I doubted for a while, and I everybody says this about Tiger, like I'll never doubt again. I think I'm there with Brooks right now at major championships.
Yeah, at least at majors, sure. That's certainly something no need to doubt moving forward. Long day coming to an end here at Colonial. We have, I believe, what looks like one group still left out on the golf course, but it was a quick and fast start. We'll just run through a couple of these quickly here. KP Austin Smotherman 3 under 67, but it was well more more entertaining than that. Out in 29, in 38. You add it up, it's a 67. We had him on 58 watch. Maybe we should have had him on 68 watch.
Well, he almost pulled off what is my favorite sort of weird golf nuance, which is no nines in the 30s. Like when you go 29, 40. I think that's so sick. It's like shooting your first round in the 60s and your second round in the 80s. We might get that from Michael Block, except other way around. Yeah. So, the front nine was insane. What is that? 3 4s were your 3 worst scores, which is just a joke. But then kind of came back to earth there on the second nine.
Our defending champion, Sam Burns, cards himself a 3 under 67, which, by the way, since the scoring average was over par, that's good enough to get you inside the top 10. Currently T7 for Sam Burns and the rest of the 3 unders. It's been kind of just a weird stretch.
Yep.
The driver fails testing at Riviera. He wins the match play, but then he hasn't played well recently. Goes back to a spot that he won at last year. Like, I no idea what to expect from this guy over the next 3 rounds.
You know, one thing I've been thinking about that we haven't talked about is this is sort of a JT and Spieth take. It's got to be kind of hard for Sam Burns that one of his best friends is the number 1 player in the world and winning everything, right? Like, that sounds cool. And I think it's cool if you don't play golf, but if you're also competing against that person, and like if you're one of your close friends is winning the Masters and the Players, but you don't play golf, like, that is cool. But if you're also competing against him and like struggling with the complication or the complexity of like friendship, but also competition, like, that's got to be a kind of a hard thing that maybe we don't give enough credit to when it comes to Sam Burns.
I mean, they stay together a lot on the road, and imagine just like every night for dinner, it's like this guy beat you by 2 shots. You're like, oh my God. Like,
well, not only that, but he leads and he leads the event, right? When we'll get to Scheffler, but that would be, it's kind of like when we stay together and you just dunk on my segments. Like, your segments are so much better, and it's like, we got to do this again, so I'm dealing with it fine.
Yeah, you'll survive. No hard. A 3 under 67 was good enough for that man, Scottie Scheffler, as well. Stop me if you've heard this before. 8th off the tee, 23rd on approach, 39th around the green, and he lost strokes with the flat stick 61st there. Scottie did Scottie things again, all he does.
It's outrageous. I just wrote this in my kind of recap of the first round, if I can find it. His finishes this year, I know we've talked about this, but I'm just going to read them to you. He's got 10 starts this year. So he finished second at the Hero World Challenge at the end of last year, and he has 10 starts since then. T7 at Kapalua, T11 at Palm Springs, first at Phoenix, won Phoenix, T12 at Bay Hill. That's his worst finish of the year.
It's a joke. Elevated event, Bay Hill. It's a joke.
Won the Players, 4th at Match Play, T10 at the Masters, putted like you could have putted better than he did at the Masters. T11 at RBC Heritage, T5 at the Byron Nelson, T2 at the PGA Championship. What are we doing, man? Like, this is crazy. And I don't even know that it's getting the recognition that it deserves.
The crazy part is there's really no sign of it ever slowing down, right? Like, it's just.
Well, get to talk to Patrick about that.
Yeah, well, Patrick needs an eye transplant at this point.
Have you seen the Mr. Beast video where he cures people of like their eye disease? That's what Patrick needs.
Twitter hated him for that.
Well, sure, they hate him for everything, but that's what Patrick he needs to be one of those patients.
We'll get Mr. Beast on the line and see if we can get a special cure for Patrick, because the way he does it has been so consistent. The bad rounds are great, and the good rounds could be better. I just, until we start seeing something, there's just no reason to think this is going to stop anytime soon.
No, I mean, you've been on this for maybe longer than anybody of like, yeah, this is just what it is. And that's honestly how I felt about John Rahm forever. Like, yeah, man, this is just what it is. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's not changing, you know, and it will change at some point. I think the thing about these guys is like, okay, how long can you do this? Because the two guys that have really done it for a decade or a decade and a half are DJ and Rory, right? Like those guys have sort of just played at this type of level for over a decade, which is just historically incredible. And can Scheffler do it for a decade? I think that's really my question. It's not like, is this a heater, like a Morikawa 2 major heater? It's like, yo, is this a decade long endeavor? Because with Rahm, we're getting close to being a decade, and I'm sort of feeling the same type of thing about Scheffler too.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's see how long he can keep it going for. Speaking of keeping it going, Harry Hall, my goodness. Harry Hall, 3 shots clear of the rest of the field, 8 under 62. I believe we just got everybody in the club. No, we still got that same group out on the golf course. So this will change a little bit, but no matter what, he's going to gain over 8 strokes to the field. It is going to be the single best round of Harry Hall's career on any tour. And he will enter Friday multiple shots clear of everybody else.
Yeah, British Bryson.
There you go.
Did you hear somebody asked him afterwards if he felt a kinship with Ben Hogan because he was wearing the hat or something? And he was like, well, or I think they asked him, like, did you have success because you're wearing the Ben Hogan hat, which is hilarious. And he said, well, maybe somebody else should wear it on Friday and we can see, like, if it's just like good luck here. And you're like, maybe we should just go back to the Michael Block content. I don't know.
I hope they didn't ask him whether or not he has a kinship, because let me see here. I'm trying to look at this. I'm pretty sure.
I'll get the
Hogan had died before Harry Hall was born.
Well, no. They didn't mean like a
okay. They just
a literal. Okay, here's the question. You're wearing the Ben Hogan hat. Obviously, Mr. Hogan made that famous back in the day. Won here 5 times. Is there any karma, between the hat and Mr. Hogan, or is that just one of those things? I think it's just one of those things, probably. Listen, like, this screams regression to the mean, right? 4 strokes gained putting. He's got horses surrounding him. He has 2 top 10s this year. One's at Puerto Rico, one's at Mexico. Great round, but it's, Kazuki Higa had a great 9 holes at the PGA Championship.
Yeah. Harry, you've done some good work, but you're going to have to keep doing some good work, bud, because you're not going to gain 4 strokes with the flat stick on Friday. A couple notables out of the early wave. Ricky Fowler, 2 under par, and Jordan Spieth, 2 over par. Just 1 circle on the card for Mr. Spieth, who has been historically great around Colonial.
Yeah. Did you see the injury thing on Thursday or on maybe Wednesday?
Was this where he said that the doctor said he should withdraw at any sign of?
Yeah. Yeah. So he said that he injured his wrist picking his kid up or putting him down or something.
There's a lot of
which I was kind of like, I had heard, and I'm not doubting that, but I had heard some talk about how this was not like it became this like, oh, wait, like, what was the moment this happened? And the talk that I heard was like, it was kind of like lingering and maybe got worse with the kid or something like that. But should he be playing right now? I guess that's sort of my question. Is I know he wants to play the DFW events, but US Open's coming up, the Open Championship, which he's always like top 3 or 4 guy. Feels like a take time off situation, but I don't know.
I thought the whole injury thing's been fishy from the start. I'm opening an investigation into that.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is, though, I don't know. I mean, he drove it awesome at Oak Hill, and he was a big gainer on approach today. Like, if it's really painful, he's striking it pretty well.
Yeah. Maybe that's what he needed.
Maybe he needs something to take his mind off of everything else He can just think.
Oh, he definitely. I mean, that's 100% true. I don't know if this is the right thing, but that's an evergreen statement.
Yeah. All right, let's chat about the afternoon wave. But first, we are going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reaction.
The largest final round comeback in Ford championship history. We're down to the final four.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner. CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
And we're back. I'll admit, not much really happened in the afternoon. The morning guys had certainly the better run of it. Harris English shot a 65 out of the final group. He's 3 shots off the lead. So just to kind of recap this, it's Harry Hall at 8 under, Harris English at 5 under, everybody else, including Tom Hoagie, Adam Schenk, Andrew Putnam, Robbie Shelton at 4 under par. And then those big names, Sam Burns, Scottie Scheffler at 3 under. Let's talk about Max Homa. He's also sitting there at 3 under par. It was a pretty eventful 67. He had 6 birdies offset by 3 bogeys and went 35-32 to complete his 67.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good bounce back from a disappointing PGA, right? And I think what's interesting here, Rick, is, you know, is Homa the sort of inverse Koepka, where he is going to play really well at PGA Tour events and then struggle at major championships? Or is he just sort of building toward that major championship contention? You know, because I think this year, not to turn one round at the Charles Schwab into like an existential conversation about Max Homa at majors, but I don't know, like this year and next year, it's kind of like, hey, you gotta make some noise, you know, at the majors, and he just hasn't. And so it's I don't know if this week, I don't know if his like what if he wins this week? Is that an indictment on him at the majors, or is it just like he rebounded from last week?
It's a good question.
Or both.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's either both, maybe both or neither, right? Like, yeah, I think the major thing is becoming an issue.
A thing, yeah.
Which I'm generally slower to start saying it's a thing, but he hasn't even really contended, right? Like I always go back to, oh my gosh, it took Rahm until his 20th to win one, but it's like,
yeah, but he at least had some like top fives. And
I know, like Max hasn't even sniffed like the first page.
I think Finau also, he played bad today at Colonial, but I mean, what? Like, I don't know. Finau's like my favorite guy on tour, so this is not a personal thing, but his major record is almost like inversely correlated to his PGA Tour record, right? Where he was contending at majors 5-6 years ago, but he wasn't winning on the tour. Now he's winning on the tour and not contending at majors, which is, I know they're not related, but it sometimes has felt like they are.
Bizarro Brooks is what that is.
Yeah.
Tough scene for Viktor, who I think a lot of people around the industry thought there might be a major championship hangover where you get in the mix of things, obviously late. I mean, literally till the 70th hole. And then you've got to turn right around, reset, and go play Colonial. And Viktor went out and shot a 1/71, which is really 3/4 of a shot worse than field average. He started to get it going, made birdies on 14 and 15, but he gave them both back with a double bogey on 16. So Viktor's got a little bit of work to do to make sure he gets through the cut line. Yeah,
I mean, whatever. Like last week was awesome. I wrote about him on Monday, and I'm all the way in. He really has showed me just over the last year. I mean, we've been talking about, we talk about this all the time. We've actually been talking about it a lot today, but there's a difference in playing majors, and Viktor is like learning how to do that. I think the phrase we used last week was in real time, and that's fun to watch, right? Like it's been really cool to see him do the work, step up, and compete, like really compete at major championships. And I think he could win one of the next two. I really do. So I'm not, this week is like meaningless to me because of what he did last week. But I mean, obviously want to see him make the cut and contend a little bit.
Yeah, so I imagine his schedule looks like this week, Memorial, off week in Canada, LACC, I imagine is what the schedule for. I mean, this is a jacked up portion of the schedule.
Is Memorial next week?
Yeah.
So we're going to the U.S. Open in 3 weeks. Less than 3 weeks.
Not next week and not the week after, but the week after that.
The U.S. Open starts 3 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's wild.
That feels fast.
I love it.
Play 10 majors.
I had something else I want to say about that, but I do not. I just realized today, and I didn't even realize it. Armina said it to me. It's called the Memorial because they have it Memorial Day week, right?
Yeah, to hit a fade, you just fade it.
Did you know that? Like, you know that?
Yes.
I never thought about that.
Oh my god.
So here's the problem. Can I?
Is it because we don't have the Labor Day Invitational?
I always thought. You know what I always thought? I was like, because it was like the Memorial and it was associated with Jack. I was like, well, Jack's not dead. That's weird, right? Like, you'd think it'd be like the Jack Nicklaus Memorial Tournament. So I thought like that's what it was.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in golf that I'm an idiot about that I don't know. This is one thing that I did know.
Oh, the Labor Day. Yeah.
They would be weird. I mean, one of the problems is they can't really move the tournament, right? All this scheduling and they can't move it.
The other in my defense, I have not worked like an office job in a while. So like I don't really even know when the holidays like I don't get the Mondays off or whatever. So I don't even know when the holidays are. So in my defense, that's why I did not know when Memorial Day.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like when it's President's Day, I'm like
no idea.
No clue. Columbus Day, any of it. But Memorial Day, I did know.
All right. Well, I learned something new every single day. There's somebody out there listening who didn't know that. Let's see the betting board, please, Mr. Josh. And thank you kindly. Yeah, well, that's about right. Scottie Scheffler, 5 shots off the lead. The only guy in single digits, plus 320 to win. And then Harry Hall, who is 3 clear of everybody else, 10-1. Max Homa at 12, Harris English at 14, Sam Burns at 16, and a gaggle of others longer than that. I mean, just how many Scottie going to win by?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. English and Siwoo are my non-Scottie picks here. I think Harris played great on Thursday. He's been playing better of late. And then Siwoo is terrifying. Like he's just always capable of running off 66 and being in the mix. So
he made like 3 birdies in a row, stepped up on a par 3 and literally almost dunked it. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. He's just going to pull off.
That's his
in a row.
That's his deal. And then he'll snap a putter and you're like,
then he has to play 15 holes with his 3-wood.
Yeah. Siwoo might have been the original Jordan Spieth experience.
Oh my God. Siwoo is an experience. I mean, listen, Scottie Scheffler is probably going to win this thing, and he's almost the same odds as if he was like before the tournament started, and he just did the exact Scottie Scheffler blueprint. But the other one that I asked Josh to get me odds on would be Justin Rose. He's 35-1. Rose was second from tee to green. He lost 3 strokes putting. That's pretty unlikely. He was great everywhere else. He's been playing good golf. He's at 1 under, so he's 2 behind Scottie and 7 behind Harry Hall, but he's like 3 behind the real lead.
Yeah, and he's 35-1. Yeah. I mean, he played great last week, right? And
he's been pretty darn good this year.
Yeah, like it's sort of like the lesser Jason Day, I would say. Like Jason Day's been the best former major winner, getting it back, playing like he used to. And Rose, if not for Jason Day, I think we'd be talking more about Justin Rose. Justin Rose is probably going to be on the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah, he's going to have to be.
Well, that's true.
Running out of guys over there. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I got my block stuff out. PGA, Brooks stuff.
Who do you think's going to win the U.S. Open?
I mean, Brooks. I mean, he's lost to one guy the first two majors, and he nearly won 3 U.S. Opens in a row. Who do you think is going to win the U.S. Open?
Scottie.
Yeah. If it honestly, like, if Scottie, Rahm, or Brooks didn't win it, like if it was somebody other than those three, I would be flabbergasted at this point. Right?
Yes, which is crazy to think about and say, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Brooks is a major championship killer, and Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler have been by far the best players in the world.
Yeah, and I don't even know who's third. I did have a Rory realization on Monday, and this ties into Brooks. I think that I was reading back through some of Rory's stuff. I wrote about this on CBSSports.com, but the Rory thing, everybody loves to talk about, oh, Rory needs to do this, he needs to do that. I think one of Rory's biggest problems right now is he doesn't trust that his stuff is good enough to be in it on Sunday at a major, which that sounds like a dumb thing for me to say, but you listen to him talk about it and you watch him play, and it's like, I think sometimes he cares so much about his place in history and winning majors and all these different things. Sometimes it feels like he's trying to win the tournament on every other shot. Right. And I think Brooks is so like wrapped up in his own, like with his own thing. And Scottie's actually pretty good at this too, that he just trusts that his stuff is going to be good enough to either win or come pretty stinking close at majors. And there's some, like, I think, lack of self-awareness in there that is helpful for him, that is maybe not helpful for some other guys. But I had that sort of light bulb moment about Rory that I'm like, he doesn't, there was a quote that he had, I don't know if you saw it after the tournament, but I think he was talking about at the Masters. He's like, I go on Friday, I say I'm 10 down to Brooks at Augusta, and you just sort of crumble. And it's like, yeah, because right now, at least right now, I'm not saying this always, but he doesn't trust that Rory McIlroy's game, his stuff, his best stuff is good enough over 72 holes. And the reality is that it is. Like, it is. But he doesn't trust it, and I think mentally he kind of works himself into some knots there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the point being that the championship is played over 72, but if you look up at 25 and see your 10 down and start putting foot on pedal and start trying to force things, that opens up a lot of bad outcomes, when really, if you were just taking your 2 strokes better than the field every single round and hope to be in it on Sunday, that's it. And Brooks can do that because he sits there and says, well, I've got my stuff and these dorks can't compete with me. So I'm just going to do my thing. I'm not looking around. I'm just going to keep playing golf.
Which is half the battle at majors, right? How many times have we seen guys just kick stuff away because they can't, there's so much noise at majors. We both experience it. Players definitely experience it. And to stay in your own little world, it takes some, I think, arrogance at times. It takes some, like, selfishness, certainly. And for Brooks, that stuff comes pretty naturally, I think. And for other guys, maybe Rory, it doesn't. I think it's hard to fake that too, right?
Like, it's hard to just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to convince myself that.
Well, that's what Rory said, right? Where he's like, being a killer is exhausting for me.
Yeah.
He almost does. He almost has like I think he has a harder natural disposition for majors to overcome than somebody like Brooks does. And I think Brooks deserves a lot of credit for that. Scottie does too, because Scottie, he's not like Brooks, but he has, like, conditioned himself to be very in the moment and trust that after, I mean, we saw this at the PGA. He played himself out of it and he played himself right back in it.
Yep.
And I think he trusts, especially right now, that over 72 holes, my best, or not even my best, but Scottie Scheffler stuff is good enough.
Yeah. He separates himself from outcome very well and just hits the next shot.
And Rory does not.
Yeah.
Because he cares about history. I mean, it comes from a good place.
Right.
It just doesn't always, it's not always helpful at majors or ever.
But definitely not at majors.
But definitely not at majors. Because that's where he gets the most like historically and mentally wound up.
Well, guess what? Another shot at it in 3 weeks in LA.
Can't wait.
All right. We'll be back Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night to recap everything, all Charles Schwab challenge and anything else that pops up in the meantime. Big thanks. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. Kyle Porter available on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.